Welcome to another edition of Just My Opinion podcast. It's your host and moderator. How y'all living? I'm living swell. 4:21 in the morning. Let's get into it. Let's get it crack-a-lacking. I really do support everyone that come through the live stream. And I really do appreciate everyone that re-watch or re-listen to the live episodes, the reruns. I really do appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. So let's get into it and let's address the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns got a lot of explaining to do in the offseason. The Phoenix Suns had no excuses. I mean, everything was paved for the Phoenix Suns to advance and to at least make it to the NBA Finals. And redemption for the Phoenix Suns because they lost to the Milwaukee Bucks last season. And this is supposed to be the Phoenix Suns' year. I thought last year was supposed to be the Phoenix Suns' year. But the notion of Chris Paul carrying a team to the finals, we're going to have to extinguish that. Chris Paul, particularly when he gets close to the finals, is like a no-show. Chris Paul is the type of player that can take you towards the promised land, but can't finish the race. He's one of those type players who's a real good runner in the marathon, but when the marathon gets close to ending, that lead can easily be evaporating. Sort of like the tortoise in the hare. If anyone remember that old folktale of the tortoise and the hare was supposed to have been faster than the tortoise, but the hare, along the way didn't really appreciate his lead, didn't capitalize on his lead, and was sleeping. And then eventually the tortoise beat the hare. That's an old folks children's tale. And Chris Paul is that type of individual. Now, Chris Paul, the last 5 games, his numbers shrunk. I mean, just simply shrank. And we can simply contribute his stats to, he's an older player, and he's an injury-prone player. But Chris Paul had opportunities and chances to make it to the NBA Finals. And it's a crying shame that he only went to the NBA Finals with the Phoenix Suns. Chris Paul had talented players during the course of his career. He had Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan. He had James Harden. And now Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton. Chris Paul had rising star players or star players on his roster and had all the capabilities and the players to make it to the NBA Finals, but he falls short. And I suspected there was going to be a slowdown for Chris Paul. I really expected Chris Paul to get one of those nagging injuries when they desperately need him the most. And I feel like this is, he's still under contract with the Phoenix Suns. And this is the best Chris Paul's going to do for the Phoenix Suns. I really do think in the offseason, the Phoenix Suns need another veteran point guard to ease, to keep Chris Paul from limiting his time in games. And you want to kind of save him for the postseason. I think they need to really look into that, see if they can find, maybe in the draft or maybe in free agency, a veteran player, or in the draft, an energetic point guard that can give Chris Paul the opportunity for rest, save him, savor the flavor for when you desperately need him the most, which is deep in the postseason. I think they really have to look at monitoring Chris Paul's minutes, because Chris Paul is not the same. And a lot of people seem to forget Chris Paul started his NBA journey with the New Orleans Pelicans. So I think that's, there was a possibility Chris Paul could have played alongside Kobe Bean Bryant for the Los Angeles Lakers, but the NBA stepped in and butchered that trade, saying that the Phoenix Suns did not get enough for Chris Paul. And Chris Paul had opportunities to make the Suns. This was supposed to be the redemption swan song for the Phoenix Suns. When they were on the rise, a lot of people started anointing Devin Booker as the next version of the Black Mamba Club. Just like Jason Tatum and several other younger players that are representing the Black Mamba movement. I think Devin Booker is a scorer, but Devin Booker in this offseason is going to have to step his game up, folks. Yes, he can score points, but there's other things that he has to fix in his repertoire to figure out ways to score without ISO play. He's going to have to play without the ball. He's going to have to perfect. He's really going to have to depend on his mid-range game. It wouldn't hurt for him to perfect his three-point game. And he's going to have to figure out other ways to score than to be an ISO player while you have your other teammates just standing around getting cold. I think that they also going to have to go into this offseason and step up that bench. That bench, if you compare the Phoenix Suns' recent roster to this roster, I think this roster, a lot of people are not talking about it, it's not the best version or the best roster from last year. I think they're going to have to go into this offseason and better that bench. There are a couple of pieces on the starting lineup they need to address. DeAndre Ayton, which, by the way, it was playing for a max contract. And I felt like that last game proved to the Phoenix Suns organization they can't really give DeAndre Ayton a max contract with that type of performance, particularly with him arguing with Monty Williams about returning back on the floor after a huge blowout. That last game, it was at one point, like, the Dallas Mavericks were up, already had 70 points, and the Phoenix Suns can barely get 50. And they still had a quarter and a half left to play, folks. That's how big that blowout was. When you had all the experts saying that the Phoenix Suns were going to beat the Dallas Mavericks, because all the Dallas Mavericks had was Luka. And I felt like the Dallas Mavericks, particularly Jason Kidd, stepped their game up. The roster, they do have players on that roster that can play alongside Luka. I think Luka has really risen as far as showing the world that he's more than just a scorer. He can get he can get the others motivated, and he can get the others the ball. And I feel like Devin Booker, needs to step his game up on that point of view. But the Phoenix Suns got a lot of explaining to do. They got to figure out what they're going to do in the offseason. It would not surprise me if the Phoenix Suns this offseason keep everything status quo as far as the coaching staff, the organization, the GM. I think those are already in place. But they're going to have to, like I said earlier in this live stream, they have to get another younger point guard that can take some time so they can rest Chris Paul for when they really need him the most, which is the postseason. DeAndre Ayton, I would allow him to test free agency and see what other teams are going that are willing to give him a max contract. I would really look at doing a signing trade, maxing out DeAndre Ayton and trading him to another ball club. In return, you get picks and players that can really contribute and help the Phoenix Suns moving forward. And I think Devin Booker has to go back into the lab, go back into the gym, and become less dependable for his athleticism and his ISO play. I think Devin Booker needs to gradually evolve. Look at Luka Doncic. As great as a scorer he is, he's sort of in the same mode as a Devin Booker. It's not a consistent, dependable shot. If you look at Luka Doncic in this series, as well as the last series, he's been hot and cold because he's been really desperately depending on his athleticism, depending on him throwing up shots, and depending on him to make some of those shots. I think Luka Doncic has really risen and stepped his game up somewhat, and he's only going to get better as the years go on. And Devin Booker, if you look at him, it's like he's been consistently depending on his athleticism and his ISO play when he needs to evolve, just like Luka, and add other things to the arsenal. And Devin Booker is going to have to go if he wants his name considered as the elite stars of the NBA. He's going to have to perfect other ways to get at the basket instead of attacking using his athleticism or his ISO play. He's going to have to play without the ball, similar to like Luka. Because in a short amount of time, we've seen Luka develop into what he is right now. And we even watching him develop as these series go on. But if you look at Devin Booker, he's been pretty much the same player. And if he wants to consider himself one of the elites, he's going to have to get in the lab, get in the gym, and perfect other attributes to his play. In other words, just only depending on his athleticism and his ISO play. So yeah, the Suns, I really feel bad for them. But when this series started, the Suns really had the Suns were really the favorites in this series. A lot of people were pointing out, well, all the Dallas Mavericks have is Luka, and that's it. And I know a lot of people are apologists for Chris Paul, for the Phoenix Suns, but you got to look at it. The Phoenix Suns had more bullets in the weapon that they could utilize than the Dallas Mavericks. You got DeAndre Ayton, who was a no-show. You had Chris Paul that faded in the last 5 games. And you had a streaky, not consistent Booker, Devin Booker. But when you look at the other side of the spectrum, when you look at what Dallas had to utilize, they capitalized off of the unwillingness, or maybe they have grown tired or whatever with the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns fell flat, and the tide completely changed. And like Luka Doncic says, everybody talks when they're up. And I think that's going to be the new saying for the next couple of seasons. Everybody, and, chirping, even though Luka Doncic can chirp, the Phoenix Suns were chirping as well. They've been chirping since the beginning of the playoffs. But everybody talks when they're up. But when they're down, you don't hear nothing from them. There's a picture floating around where Luka Doncic is looking at Devin Booker at the free throw line, and I know Devin Booker knows Luka Doncic was looking at him, but he didn't have a lot to say in that series. They really going to have to step their game up. If they, I feel like the Phoenix Suns, they're not out of it. They're just not the elite team we thought they were going to be. They're going to take a couple of steps back. And they're going to have to address several things in the offseason. They're going to have to really reshape and rebuild that bench. They're going to have to really figure out who they're going to consistently have in the starting lineup. Ayton, and which, by the way, the Phoenix Suns had a possibility of trading Luka over Ayton, but they chose Ayton because they felt like Ayton was a better fit for the Phoenix Suns. If they have to do it all over again, I'm pretty sure they would have chose Luka. And to make matters even worse, the Atlanta Hawks had Luka Doncic, but they traded him for Trae Young. And look at the Atlanta Hawks right now. Sometimes the sure thing is the best thing. And I even said in that draft that both of those ball clubs made huge, drastic mistakes not acquiring Luka Doncic. The Atlanta Hawks had Luka Doncic, but they traded him away for Trae Young with the Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks saw a lot of potential in Luka Doncic, more so than those other two ball clubs. And look at these, and if you look at these two ball clubs, they are declining. The Atlanta Hawks got a lot of things that they need to work on this offseason. They were not the same Atlanta Hawks that they were last season. And the same goes for the Phoenix Suns. I don't think the Phoenix Suns are totally out of it. They're just not the elite team in the West, but they are a team that a lot of other ball clubs are going to have a hard time beating. This does not change nothing or change anyone's time frame. But yeah, they got a lot of things that they need to fix. Anyway, I'm up out of here. I'll talk to you guys on another edition of Just My Opinion podcast. And rate, comment, subscribe. Send this to your friends, family, and share this with your friends, family, and followers. I will see you guys on the next one. Deuces.